Hey, what's going on? How you doing? Oh, this is fun. This is so much fun. Welcome back to the podcast that nobody asked for. Um, I am your host. I'm the circus clown for this evening. My name is Tyler Jakowski, otherwise known as Fishing for Clout, otherwise known as your mom's favorite TikToker. Um, Wow, weird start. I I need to talk about something and I don't know how to start talking about this. So I'm going to jump right into it. People at the gym need to get it together, okay? They need to get it together so badly because I have never in my whole life been so uncomfortable than how I've felt at the gym the last three times that I've gone. I want you to be aware of the fact that this happened three out of three times. Okay, let's start with today and let's work backwards. Today, I was at this LA Fitness and I was on like the turf, right? So I'm on the turf area, and when you're on the turf, you still got to use one of those little mats because I have little like dainty elbows, and if I'm trying to, sweat from my elbow, I don't know. When I'm like leaning up on my elbows on the turf, it's not fun. It's not comfortable. I don't like it. So I get one of those little mats. Okay, you can make fun of me in the comments. Um, so I get one of those mats, right? And what I try to do when I'm working out, because I'm all about efficiency. I'm not about actual effort, and I'm not about like pride. I'm more about efficiency. I'm more about being able to check a box. So I try to get as much done in as little time as possible. So I try to do like a superset sort of thing where you do like one workout and then another and then you take a break. So I'm laying down on this mat and I'm trying to do like push ups and planks and then like leg lifts. Okay. I promise you this whole podcast it's not going to be just me talking about some sad rendition of exercise that I try to do. But I'm telling you this for a reason. So I lay down and I do like a push up thing, whatever, and then I get up and I walk 2 feet over to get on this like hanging bar to do leg lifts. And this old man who looked oddly similar to Martin Scorsese, he comes up and he like snuck up like a cartoon character. He like kind of shuffled his way over and he grabbed my mat and literally ran away. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, that that didn't actually happen, right? Like I'm imagining this. He looked like the Grinch when he stole the Christmas tree and he like started shuffling out of the house. Um Absolute insanity. So I walk up to the guy and I was like, "Hey, no, like, what are you doing?" Like, so, but obviously, I respect my elders. Okay, I'm a respectful millennial. Um, so I walk up to him and I'm like, "Can I have my mat back? I wasn't done." The man looked at me, and let me tell you about the hill that this man chose to die on. This man looked at me and he goes, "I've never seen you before in my entire life." And I was like, "I know. This is the first time when you walked over to me and you stole my mat." He was like, "You weren't using this mat. You weren't even over there." I'm like, "Unless I became Casper the goddamn ghost and you can't see me, I was using that mat." So basically, we go back and forth. But I am not in the business of fighting geriatric people. I'm not going to do it. At one point, I just like walked away. As I'm walking away, this man looks at me, or was, as I was walking away, I hear this man go, "Yeah, I thought so." Okay, so something you should know about me. I wouldn't ever go so far as to say that I have an anger issue. I would definitely go so far as to say that I hold back a lot on a daily basis, like a record amount. Like Ripley's Believe It or Not type amounts of stuff that I hold back saying and doing on a daily basis. Like, I'm from Boston. And for anyone who's like, no, you're not, you're from Danvers, I'm saying I'm from Boston because people who aren't from Boston don't know where Danvers is. Okay? No one. Unless you were born in the eastern Massachusetts area, you don't know what Danvers is. You don't know where it is. But if you're from anywhere in the world, you probably know where Boston is. So I'm saying it as a proximity thing. Let me live my life. Okay, I'm glad we got that figured out. What was I talking about? Oh, I was born in Boston, and I learned very, very early from both of my parents and everyone around me that driving would be a substantial issue for me. And naturally, it's always going to be the other guy's fault because I'm never wrong. And if I ever am made to look like I'm wrong, I can just scream and fight and cry and act like a child, and then I'll get away with it. And I would say only 10% of the time will I end up in prison for doing that. But it helped me develop this intense anger from things that aren't necessarily deserving of that anger, but just make me, they're inconveniences. The name of the game for me is inconveniences. Like things that are just stupid will make me lose my absolute mind. But things that actually matter, I won't even really care. Like not too long ago, I was driving in Boston and this idiot, this jackass, he was driving this like souped up brand new Mustang GT. He definitely peaked in high school in like 1975 because this man still had like the gray mullet and like those Terminator sunglasses. He looked like a jackass. So he like pulled over into my lane and just smoked the side of my sports car, my Kia Sorento. If you don't know what a Kia Sorento is, it's sick. Like people who have Lamborghinis want a Kia. Um, but he like smoked my car and we were going probably like 65, 70 miles per hour. And that didn't make me mad. You know, like I was cool during that. But then if you have something very minor, for example, like if a drawer won't close, I'll I'll fight a drawer. I I got no problem fighting a drawer. I can do that as long as I need to. Like that's fine with me. um it's little inconveniences, like it's things that don't deserve anger that get anger, but then it's things that really deserve anger that I keep it together. You know, like as a teacher, I feel like one of the biggest strengths I ever learned was just like emotional regulation, you know, and not losing my shit every time that I wanted to. And I think that for me it was like it taught me in a way to hold back in moments where you really want to lose your mind, but it tricked my brain into being like, oh, one drop of water from a tree after rainfall got into the back of my neck. Time to punch the ground. You know, I just think it's really backwards, and I think that it's really funny. But I don't know. Teaching has given me a lot of life skills, and I don't know. I think that most of them are for the better. I mean, when I was talking to my mom not too long ago, and when I'm with my mom, like we curse. Like, listen, I'm a teacher, yes, but I'm also 27, turning 28 years old. Like, I'm an adult, okay? And when I'm with my parents, like we're Bostonians. We curse a lot. Like every third word is a swear. And my mom stopped me and she was like, "You know, you can't talk like that around like your boss or your students." And I stopped her and I was like, What do you think I'm doing all day? You think I'm just like cursing out my students all day long, like calling them every horrible word I can think of? What makes you think I would still have a job if I was doing that?" And I was like, "My boss? What do you think?" I'm like, "Hey, what's up, principal? No, like that would be insane." You know, like there's a time and a place for everything. But the reason I bring that up is because I think that teaching has helped me develop sort of like an on and off switch, right? So I feel like with this on and off switch, I could be two different people. You know, like I can be the very, very vanilla person, but then I can also be, I mean, I can also just be myself and just like kind of let loose and say whatever I want to say. Like I'm not saying anything offensive, but like cursing wise. But that switch, like in the 5 years that I've taught, I've probably sworn in front of my class maybe 3 times involuntarily. Like, and one of the times wasn't even really my fault. One of them, so it was like almost Halloween season, and this was when I was teaching children, like babies. Like I was like this was my it was a fourth grade class. So I had left my room during a break period. The one time that I'm supposed to have a little bit of peace, but because I'm a teacher, you work through the whole time. You don't get peace. You get moments to get the work done that you don't have time to do because you're teaching. So I leave my classroom and I go to print some stuff off. And I I am walking back to my room and I have like the printouts in my hand and I turn the corner and one of my younger students, like a fourth grader, had snuck behind my door and they're like, it's 8:30 in the morning. Mr. J seems like he hasn't gotten enough cortisol, like stress hormones coming from his heart. I don't think his blood pressure's high enough. I don't think that the coffee that he's drinking is doing enough to wake him up. I'm going to make his soul leave his body. I'm going to make him empty his stomach into his pants. The kid jumped out. And when I tell you, I in my mind in that moment, that's not a child, right? Like in that moment, that's not a kid. In that moment, that is some type of demon, that is an intruder, that is something threatening the continuation of my life. And therefore, it caused sort of an instinctive fight or flight mechanism. And let me tell you, there was no flying, there was just fighting. And in that first moment, all of my fighting was just going to be vocal. I screamed the F word louder than I think I've ever screamed in my whole life. And I did it at a pitch that, that would have won Oscars or whatever it is you win for music. I could have broken a wine glass. Like, it was like, ah! It was a lot like that. But imagine that, but I'm screaming the F word at a child's face. Um, but I don't even think that should really be fireable. I think that should be understood by administrators. I think that if they knew that this child had jumped out from a pretty well hidden dark place and I am already a pretty jumpy person, it feels right for me to have that one not be included in my mid-year report, especially when we're talking about jobs for next year. Maybe that's the reason I never got a promotion because I keep screaming the F word at students when they jump out at me. I don't know what makes me such a good target for pranks though. Like I don't know. I feel like students really love screwing with me, and it's not even pranks. Why do I even call them pranks? Pranks make it sound so much more like it's well thought out. I guess the question for me is what is it about me that makes students want to say horrific things that keep me from sleeping at night? Like what? Each kid that I teach has 6 teachers, 5 teachers, maybe 5 teachers in like a homeroom. Why am I the singular person that you come to when you're like, oh, I'd really love to say this to some Oh, sorry, I burped. I really love to say this to someone and like drastically hurt their feelings, like bury their confidence a little deeper in the ground. I'm gonna go to Mr. J. Like, can you explain where where that need comes from? Because for me, it's making very little sense. Like the math is for sure not mathing on this. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's because I look like a Who from Whoville. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to do something a little bit different today. Today, I went on my Instagram and I asked my followers to send me like advice questions or things that you want to know, anything that they might be interested in, and I would talk about it on the podcast. And when I tell you, I got how many? 983 responses. So here's something that I know that you might not know. Even with my ADHD, I mean, I guess especially with my ADHD, I don't have the ability to concentrate on one topic for so long. However, I'm going to do a lot of them today, and then I'll do some of them in the future. Also, just a side note for anyone who sent in a question or a thing you need advice on, if you didn't say, please don't say my name, I'm going to say your first name if I can figure out what it is. Don't be mad at me. I don't make the rules. So yeah, I guess let's read some of these because who knows what this is going to be. Um, Dream said, "When are you going to propose to your girlfriend?" Can I can I just tell you, I have never in my life been so happy because of the existence of a singular person. Like, I'm not going to make this too long because I could do this all day long. The way that I laugh when I'm with this girl literally makes no sense. I have never laughed harder. Like, even compared to like my brother or some of my closest friends, or even like Jesus Christ, even like some of my students, I have never laughed harder than I do when I'm with this girl. Like, one of the things that we do almost every single night. So Ranya's like a super chill person, but she gets like the zoomies at night. And I think it's just like when she's so small, I think she has like this like sort of storage unit of energy that she just holds on to during the day, like in case she needs to like run away from a prey. And when her body realizes that she's a human being and she's not being hunted, she has to use this energy later in the day. So it'll be like, okay, you should know, I try to go to bed early. She does not. She's like a night owl. I'm a little bit more of a morning person, so I'm usually tired a little bit sooner. She doesn't care about that. She gets the zoomies and she insists that we tussle. And what tussling is for her is her trying to lay on top of me and put her hair in my face, and me doing everything in my power to stop her from doing that. And she calls it tussling. She just like kind of like moves side to side. She doesn't like actually fight at all. She just like lays her dead weight on top of me, which is like 90 pounds of dead weight. And she just like tries to like suppress me and like suffocate me. It is the most adorable thing I have ever seen. And she has this voice where she sounds almost like a Swedish person, and she's got like I don't even know. It's almost British, almost Swedish. I don't know. She's like bubbly. She calls me Bubby. But she just like I don't know. Everything about this girl is just friggin' hilarious. I tell her that she's like without a doubt the funniest person I've ever met, and she like straight up doesn't believe me. But to answer your question, I'm gonna propose as soon as possible. Just hang tight. Okay, Sarah said, "What do I do with friends that hurt you a lot but are your best friend?" Sarah, I'm going to teach you something that you probably would have learned on your own. You know, you're a very capable person. You're either going to stop being friends with these people now or later. These are not best friends. These are the friends that are available at the moment for you. And when you are looking at the people available for you, you become a little more or a little less picky. I think that you need to understand that friendship shouldn't feel taxing. Like when you are with a best friend, after hours, you should not feel exhausted. Okay. You should not feel bad about yourself. You should not feel like you need to recharge your battery. You should feel, coming from a conversation with a friend or just like spending time with a friend, you should feel uplifted. You should feel inspired. You should feel supported. Okay. So I'm going to tell you what you already know. Okay. These are not your best friends. All right. These are very specifically people in your near proximity, these are not friends. Okay. And I think that obviously there's the consideration of like, what are they doing to be hurtful to you? Because you said with friends that hurt you a lot, like if they're physically hurting you or emotionally hurting you, they're not your friends, you know? And also, like, can we just make something clear? You're not a bad person for cutting the bad fruit off the tree and not being friends with someone. You know, I think that there's like the stigma in our society where if you end a friendship or like you distance yourself from a friendship, you like gave up on them. But I think the thing is, it's like, first off, have you talked to them about how you're feeling about the way that they're treating you? If you have and there's no change, that's on them. They got to figure their own shit out because it's like you deserve better. It's like, I don't know why you would ever waste your time with people who are not bringing you up, making you feel better, you know? So, what would you do with friends that hurt you a lot? I would distance yourself. You know, like there are so many people in this world. I promise you, just from your profile picture, you look pretty young. I want you to realize you're going to meet so many people in your life. So many people that make you feel so much better. And at some point in time, like I said before, you're either going to stop being friends with these people when you're older and you realize that they're just nothing but weighing you down, or you're going to do it now. The difference I will say is that the sooner you do it, the sooner you're going to start feeling better. And listen, if they realize later in life that they screwed you over and that they were treating you wrong, let them come running back. But if there's one thing I can tell you, it's that certain people are not meant to be your closest friends. Okay. They can be acquaintances. They can get your attention when they earn it or they apologize for how they've acted. But you're not going to just like kneel down and you shouldn't have to deal with your friends, right? You shouldn't have to I don't know, you shouldn't have to settle for friendships in the same way that you shouldn't have to settle for a relationship. You know, if you have like a boyfriend or girlfriend that you're settling for, you're going to realize you're settling sooner or later. Don't. You're better than settling. Don't do that. Sarah, no. Okay. Um let's see. Somebody asked, do you prefer to teach the elementary kids or the high school kids? Okay, I got to be real with you. You can't, you really can't compare the two. You know, you need to have an appreciation for each of them for different reasons. Okay? Like I like again, you can't even compare them because I think the big thing that I noticed with moving from teaching elementary to teaching high school is that the problems are different. I wouldn't say that the problems are any more or less. Well, that's a lie. Let me rephrase. I think the thing in high school is that when there's a problem, it's less common, but it's bigger. You know, because I worked with straight up adults, right? Like the school that I was in was a turnaround school. Okay. And that means that for some students, they're at the school because they had like a disruption in their education, right? Because they were, you know, in gang life for a little bit. They were homeless for a little while. They were dealing with drug habits for a little while. One reason or another, they had a break in their education and they needed to they needed to take a break from it. So they're coming back and sometimes they have years that they're not in school. So I have legitimate adults in my class, you know, 18, 19, some 20-year-old students. I was 22 when I started, you know? So you got to realize that like in some of these classrooms there are adults, you know? So I think the thing is with high school, there are fewer problems, but when there is a problem, it's often much bigger. Okay? Like we had a lot of very violent situations in the school that I was in, but I can't pretend that it's every single day. You know, it's not. I will say, but when you're working with, you know, elementary school students, typically it's like 10 to 15, maybe 20 times a day. You deal with little things. You deal with disagreements. You deal with he took my this. You deal with she called me that. You know, but I think the thing is that they're different challenges and they're different challenges that certain people are really great with and there are different challenges that certain people aren't as good with. Like I think for me, I wasn't as skilled in Like I can understand where a younger student's coming from, where they're like, he called me stupid. And I'll be like, are you stupid? And the kid's like, no. And I'm like, all right, so why are we listening to Kyle? Okay. Why are you taking any like input from Kyle? But I think that my personality might have actually matched up with my high schoolers a little bit better, because when I told him, I was like, listen, he's saying something stupid. Why are we even listening to what he's saying? If he's saying something that you know is not real, why are we listening to it? Okay? Like the only time that he's going to feel any level of superiority or I guess like strength is if you make it clear that you're going to allow him to say these things about you, you know? So I think that when it came to my own personality, I think that being in high school, it just made a little bit more sense. But that's not to say that I didn't absolutely love my elementary schoolers. And I think that I did have a lot of skills as an elementary school student. Um, Adif by 22 asked me, what's my best piece of advice for life? I got one for you. And this works for people of all ages. If you're having trouble with something, listen up real close. Other people's opinions of you are none of your business. I'm going to say that one more time so you can make sure that you hear it. Other people's opinions of you are absolutely none of your business. Okay? That means it's similar to what I was just saying with the high schoolers. It's that like if other people feel some way about you, it's not your job to change their mind, okay? It's not your job to, alter the way that they were brought up, or, the opinions that they've developed about you. The opinion of you that matters the most is your opinion of yourself, okay? And the fact of the matter is, you need to fill yourself and you need to fill your life with people who have opinions of you that you care about. I also really love the idea of like, you should never take advice from someone who's not in a position that you want to be in. Meaning, if you have a friend who is very emotionally mature, like able to talk through their emotions, able to recognize when they're not able to do something, they can say no, they care about their own mental health, you should take advice from that person if you're curious about your own mental health, But don't take it mental health advice from some idiot who has no emotional regulation whatsoever, because then all you're going to do is teach yourself the wrong things. I love cooking. I'm not going to learn from some idiot that's never made a meal before. I'm going to learn from a Gordon Ramsay. I'm going to learn from an Anthony Bourdain. Don't take advice from people who have no mastery in the thing that you're talking about. So let me bring that back. No one has mastery in the topic of you more than you do. Okay? So the only time that you should be taking in someone's opinion about you is someone who has mastery in you or yourself. Okay? So please, for the love of God, other people's opinions of you are none of your business. Snake Lover 6 asked me, how do you deal with imposter syndrome or feelings of inadequacy? Um, I I don't want to speak for everybody. I only want to speak from my own experiences because that's fair, and I don't want to make anyone feel like I'm speaking for them. Being on TikTok, especially since it's gotten much bigger over the past like 3.5 years, has made me feel very aware of this like feeling of inadequacy. Like I'm a huge proponent of therapy. Therapy helped me through so much, helped me, recognize my anxiety, helped me get medicated for my anxiety and regulate it and just come up with ways to make my own mental health a little stronger. But before that, before I was in therapy and before I was, taking control over that feeling, I suffered a great deal of imposter syndrome and feeling like who am I to be talking to like 50 million people a month about a topic like education. I've only been teaching for 5 years. Who am I to tell some educator who's a veteran what they should and shouldn't do in their classroom? But I think that for me, in my specific situation, what's kind of beautiful about TikTok is that it's very individual. Like your account can focus specifically on everything that goes through your head, and you're the only head that has that going through it. And I think that with that individuality comes sort of a sense of there's really no way to be yourself wrong, you know? And I think that when it comes to that idea of like there's no wrong way to be yourself aside from just being yourself, it helps you realize that you are the thing that people want around, you know? And I think the thing is, it's like a lot of the time, these opportunities don't just get handed to you by accident. More times than not, it's for a reason. It's because you made a choice. It's because you made somebody feel some way. You helped someone. You made somebody feel supported. You did a good job on something. And I think for me, I needed to pinpoint where I was helping people, where I was getting people to improve in themselves, where I was able to provide some level of help so that I can see a tangible product of my position. And for me, that was really helpful in like DMs I get from people and comments I see on my videos where people will say, you know, I love your content. Like whenever I'm having a bad day, it really cheers me up. And it makes me think of myself a couple years back where I was going through some really, really difficult times and I felt like I had no place in this world, you know. And I remember there are a couple of creators who really made that change. There's one guy on TikTok, I can't for the life of me remember the name of the account just because it's been so long and he doesn't post quite as often. He used to make these videos where he would sit down and he'd say, how are you? How really are you? And he was like, life's too short, you gotta be happy. Okay, comment his name somewhere because I literally I DM'd this man like 6 different times and I told him, I was like, you have no idea the dark place that you were able to let me get through by just supporting me and making clear the fact that I do deserve to be happy, you know? And for me, getting DMs and comments that show that I'm making a similar change in someone's life and making them feel good every day, it really makes me feel like I'm making a difference and it makes me feel like a little less of an imposter. So for you, you didn't give me really any like details into what you're managing to make you feel this imposter syndrome, but I would say in your own life, in your day-to-day, in the 24 hours that you experience just like everybody else, what products of your being do you have that you can look at and say, I helped to make that happen? And I'm going to be real with you, if you find that you can't think of one, I want you to create a situation where you can think of one. Okay, I want you to create a situation in which in the future you'll be able to look back and be like, that was the right thing to do. Sometimes it's just giving back to people. Sometimes it's checking in on a family member or friend and really sitting down to listen. Do a very small act of kindness that will make you realize that you at least did something to help the people around you, you know. And you could do a million things at work that are good products and you might not take notice of them, but sometimes when you start from like a humanitarian perspective and you just do something that makes you feel good, it's really, really easy to, you know, let that wave develop and let that snowball develop. Okay, so I'm gonna move to one more. Um, this one says, so Haley Childers 2026 said, I want to become a teacher. That's great. That's fantastic. I'm almost done with high school. Any advice for teacher college? Yes, 100%. So I went to Emmanuel College. It's in Boston, Massachusetts. It's right next to Fenway Park. I chose Emmanuel specifically because they have a really, really good education program. And one thing about their education program that stood out to me was that they have a serious focus on teaching the population that exists around you. Okay, like I've lived in the city for, I don't know, 10 years, from 95 to now. So yeah, almost 95, from 2025, from 2015 to now. So about 10 years. And I've always taught in schools that were city schools with students from every single background, from every single event, from every walk of life. And what the degree I got taught me was that I need to be able to know my students on a deeper level than just their name. Okay? 99% of students will go past the teacher's classroom and all that they're going to remember is their name and how they performed academically. Okay? One thing that I can absolutely assure you is that your students will remember you if you can really get to know who they are as a person. You are going to change that kid's life and you're going to make the actual day to day with that student so much better if you can just take a minute, put the curriculum to the side, and just learn about that student. Ask them about their favorite music, ask them about their favorite sport, ask them if they're okay, right? Like, ask if they're actually okay and let them know. 9 times out of 10, a student's not going to be like, yes, let me trauma dump on you real quick. No, ask them if they're okay. And if they seem a little bit off at all, even if they say that they're perfectly fine and they seem like they're perfectly fine, say these words. I just want you to know if you ever need to talk to someone, I'm right here for you. Okay? That's going to go further than any lesson on any book for any state standard in the entire existence of the world. Okay? I single handedly promise you that student will never look at you the same. That student will look at you as a mentor. That student will look at you as a safe place, which is very, very, very uncommon in schools these days. And I am incredibly, incredibly passionate about that. Students deserve to feel safe and loved and happy and also challenged in the school, but they should not be challenged emotionally. They need to be challenged intellectually. And students will not feel comfortable challenging themselves intellectually if they do not feel comfortable emotionally. That first time that you walk up and you're like, listen, I got your back. If you ever need to come talk to me, just let me know. I'll stay after school. I'll come early for school. We can eat lunch together. I don't care. But if that student knows that it's you and her or you and him versus all the stupid crap that shows up in the school year, that makes you two a team, and it doesn't make it so authoritarian like people think schools need to be. Okay. This has been so much fun. I love these questions. I'm going to keep answering these ones that you guys already sent in, but I'm also going to ask again. So if you don't follow the Instagram is at Tyler Jakowski Official, TylerJakowskiOffical, Tyler Jakowski Official. Send in a DM. You can DM me, say like, yo, can you answer this on the podcast? 100% I will. Okay. So I'm going to put out another poll of that. That's where I got all of these questions today. And if I didn't get to your question, I'm really, really sorry about that. It's not intentionally. It's not because I don't like your question. It's just because I got to edit this and I have ADHD. But I'm going to definitely answer more of these. But I have a very exciting, a surprise, a little thing coming up that I want to let you guys in on. If you've watched this far, you deserve to hear this. I'm going to have my first guest on this podcast, and it's going to be in video. The person's going to be with me. If you've ever heard of Mr. D, he is a hilarious, he was an elementary school teacher. He's now a stand-up comic. Joe Dombrowski. I hope I pronounced that right because he's also got a Polish last name, and God knows my dumb ass will get it wrong. He's going to be coming on the podcast with me. We're going to talk all about content creation. We're going to talk about teaching. We're going to talk a little bit about just what we've been up to and what inspires us to do everything that we've been doing. He's going to be the first guest that I've ever had on the podcast. And what matters to me almost as much is I want to know who you guys want to see me talk to. Like what? It can be educators. It can be content creators. It can be whoever you'd like. Just let me know in the comments. Reach out to that person. I'll try to reach out to that person myself. And whoever we can get on the podcast, we'll get them on the podcast. And hopefully at some point, we're able to move this into like a in-studio situation where we can have a real setup and I can get these people in person with me. Because, okay, and Boo starts losing her mind. Because there's so many incredible content creators and they're just doing incredible work and I want everyone to see them. So if you have any ideas of who you want to see on the podcast, let me know. Until then, thank you for tuning in to episode, what is this? Good Lord, 11 of the podcast that absolutely not one single person asked for. I love you all. Be good to each other. I will see you guys next time. Peace.